What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Jacob in Wisconsin. I'm down here in the Redneckville, USA state of Tennessee. Proud of that. Just got to give them a shout out, all these folks down here. And here to talk some Packers tonight, man. Really, really excited about diving into some awesome topics to hit on. We're going to talk about a new signing the Packers made. Obviously, you guys probably got wind. We got a new cornerback back in the house. Of course, somewhat familiar with that gentleman. We're also going to talk about Matt LaFleur's success since he became the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. But more importantly, we're going to do a deep dive into the potential 53-man roster and a 16, 17-man practice squad, right? And we're going to give kind of a different perspective on that. We're going to approach it from Bill Huber's prediction, and then we'll kind of go through and not necessarily critique it, but just try to look at all the different angles because, here it is. It's Monday, August the 4th. The Packers didn't have an open practice today. I believe they're having 3 straight days of open practice. And then, of course, we got a preseason game coming up Saturday. So I think this is a good time to dive into the roster. All right. Set the stage, week 2 of training camp. How are we feeling about the roster? Who do we think makes it? Who do we think does not make it? Then we'll jump right back into the live coverage throughout the week. So before we do this, if you guys would, do that YouTube stuff for me. Hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your evening. Listen, we're not experts here. We're not insiders. We're not media members. What we are just fans, just like you, in here talking Packers on the daily, especially throughout the regular season. We'll be doing pregame shows, postgame shows, film breakdown, in-depth analysis, the whole 9 yards. So if you're looking for daily Packers content, make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you click that bell so you get notified every time we go live throughout the season. Jake, how you doing today, bub?
I'm doing all right. It's a Monday, so you're always kind of shaking off the weekend sort of thing. I ate too many racks of ribs. I think I showed you one of the 2 that I made over the weekend, and I'm feeling it today. I had to do a little extra cardio, if you know what I mean.
Bro, I was still recovering from the racetrack, man. I'm just telling you. The food,
oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, the food and, of course, the drinks and everything. It was just, oh, boy, out there in the rain, just hanging. It literally turned into like a I don't even know what to say, Woodstock or something. You know what I mean? It's just everybody hung out for 5 or 6 hours, hoping the rain moved out, and just turned it into a Bristol Motor Speedway party. It was really cool. I wear Packers gear everywhere I go. I think I counted 6 or 7 different, hey, go Pack throughout the whole night. It was absolutely awesome, man. So got to meet some other Packer fans along the way. Drew D says Bristol is the best NASCAR track. It really is, man. And I'm not saying that just because it's 15 minutes up the road for me. You go to that race, Jake. If you ever want to go to a race, come down here, crash at my pad, go to Bristol. It's just nothing but wreck after wreck after wreck. I mean, if they got to, if you ain't rubbing, you ain't racing out there, man. It's absolutely awesome. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I had a chat here pulled up. Somebody had said, I think it was 2-0 for this, said, let me find it again. I want to hit this real quick. He said, I can't find it. I lost it. Right here. Maybe it is. Yeah, here we go. Hot take. But if Caleb is the Bears starter week 1, Ben Johnson's already failed. So did you get to see this clip here, Jake?
Is this the one where he crashes out in the net or the one where he crashes out after making a bad throw?
No, we showed the net the other day where he missed 4 straight throws and the net missed the net completely on the last throw, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like missed the whole net and then got mad, threw a little temper tantrum. This one right here was from their practice the other day. And tell me if this don't look just like last year. Notice how he doesn't have an answer quickly to the question. Let me see if I can go full screen here. That a little bit better. Here we go. Watch this. All right, so you see him. Look, yeah, okay, there's pressure. Know where you're checking it down. Instead, he just chuck and duck, interception. And, of course, Kyle Brandt on NFL Network, being the Bears apologist that he is, he's seen this clip and seen the reaction to it. And he went on his little high horse, like it's just ridiculous that fans want to cherry pick bad throws in training camp and blah, 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 blah. He's such a whiny little brat, man. It's unbelievable. He just the Bears never do anything wrong. I actually quote tweeted him and threw a clip up where it was Justin Fields' last game as a Chicago Bear, and he went on this little cheesy rant of how you can go into Lambeau and burn it to the ground and you're going to be the guy of the future. And he was gone the next year. So, and now we're on to Caleb making excuses for him. But anyway, that's been a hot button topic. And obviously that video was provided by a bunch of different people. It looks like CNG Podcast originally and Sleeper NFL had tweeted it out. Man, you got anything to say about our boy Caleb Williams here, man?
I do, actually. And you know what? I'm not going to pile on because, as Elijah Gwynn highlights, Ryan already did that pretty good this morning. I usually wake up like 4 a.m. For my job. I have to verify that it's open, and I'll usually will throw his podcast on because it takes me a while to fall asleep. So I usually can listen to a whole podcast of his. And every now and then I'll have to go back and re-listen to like the back half kind of thing, right? And this morning I couldn't fall back asleep because he was roasting the Bears, and he did it in the typical Ryan way where it wasn't just, he wasn't beating the dead horse. It was subtleties and sarcasms and, I thought that this is supposed to be good kind of stuff. He,
offensive line, they fixed the offensive line.
They fixed the offensive line. They won the offseason. I don't understand it. They made all these, it was very, very enjoyable. So, as Packer fans, I'd like to say, we're above that. We're not. I totally want to use this time of year to absolutely exploit the type of, definitely seems like there's some growing pains there with him and Ben. And, I really hope they get it together. I really hope that they pull it because it'd be, now I sound like Ryan.
I'm going to crack up if they get a quarter of the way through the season, Ben Johnson loses his patience and they even think about steering away from Caleb. Could you imagine it? If he's throwing hissy fits for missing nets and on the sideline when he's the starter, could you imagine if for some reason he was playing so bad he got pulled, how he would respond to that on the side? Oh,
I don't. And people think I'm crazy. I swear on anything you wanted me to swear on. I think Tyson Bagent's a better quarterback right now and ready to start in the NFL over Caleb Williams, but they would never do that. If you watch Tyson Bagent, he's a good quarterback.
And here's the thing too, like when people look at the statistics, they say, well, his touchdown to interception ratio was unbelievable. And I think Kyle Brandt pointed out that he went 8 or 9 games without throwing an interception. Look at his yards per pass attempt. Again, one of the most important metrics in when determining how successful, how effective a passing game is in the NFL. Horrible, right? And also him taking sacks. And not only just taking sacks, but taking sacks of holding the ball for 4 seconds or longer. He was leading the league. I think it was 3/4 of the way through the season. The last I heard that stat, he was leading the league in sacks taken while holding the ball for 4 seconds or longer.
Yep.
So it doesn't make a hill of beans if you're protecting the football when you're refusing to throw the ball down the field and move the ball down the field and be effective as an offense. It looks like you're just trying to pad stats and make it look like, hey, this isn't my fault, right? And it's easy to look at the sacks and go, man, he's got a horrible offensive line. Then when you turn on the tape, you see, boy, he don't know where to go with the football. Maybe that'll change this year. That's a possibility. I'm just not holding my breath, man, at all. So anyway, that's enough Chicago Bears talk. I just wanted to hit on that real quick.
Just real quick, because Andy Monday made up. I think Caleb Williams is going to turn the Bears around. Full 360, right back to where they were, that crap organization.
I think that's spot on. So we had a signing earlier today, Jacob. I believe it was earlier today it came down. You may remember this guy, Corey Ballentine, cornerback that played for the Packers last year. So the Packers go and pick him up, add a little more depth to the cornerback room. So now the question becomes, is there a chance Corey Ballentine makes the roster? And we'll talk about the deep dive here shortly. Just want to get your take on this because you guys, if you'll remember, Jacob, 2023 had a pretty decent season, right? I want to say he graded out like a 60. And then 2024, I was kind of expecting him to maybe take a step and get some significant playing time. And he fell all the way back into the 50s. And you could see it on the tape. Corey Ballentine just didn't – it's almost like he didn't fit what Jeff Hafley was doing as much as he fit into that quarters match coverage that our boy Joe Barry liked to run. But nonetheless, they bring him back in. He's familiar with the staff. He's familiar with the coaches. He's familiar with the trainers, familiar with the facility, and just somebody you can get in here and maybe just add an extra body in camp as well. But you got anything to add to the Corey Ballentine signing?
Not really. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I didn't even hear about it until I sat in the chair. I was at work, just smashed until just before. And even when I heard it, it was interesting, but I don't see him making this roster. I really don't. I think that he was brought in to have just more competition, maybe break glass in case of emergency type player. While I respect what he did when he was here, like Drew D says, he was decent competition when he was here. That's another year removed. Another, guys are going into year 2 of Hafley's system. And the biggest thing to me is that he's pushing 30, and we've got a ton of guys that are in that, 3rd string to 7th string cornerback room, including guys like Bo Melton, that I really do want us to have an honest shot on making this team. And what do we always talk about? Take your eye off the ball, or keep your eye on the ball, I should say. I don't want progress stoppers. And I feel like right now that Corey Ballentine may offer nothing more than kind of slightly raising your floor, you know what I mean, in that cornerback room. But all in all, I believe it'd be more of a hindrance to the young talent that we have.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll keep an eye on Corey Ballentine, see if he's got a legit shot of making the 53. To me, I don't see it happening, but you never know. And again, hate to say it, but everybody in here knows it's a reality that injuries are going to happen. And why not have somebody in here that you're familiar with? You know kind of what their limitations are. You know what they do well, what they do not so well, because you've already compiled, you've invested time into a guy like that, and you've compiled all this information. And if indeed he makes it to the practice squad or whatever out of camp, or to the 2nd or 3rd week of camp, you've got a little bit better idea of, hey, this is what this player is. Why not go ahead and add him to the mix? So I like the signing. I'm not expecting it to be world changing or anything, but just wanted to mention it there. So
real quick before we move on, like Judy says, he goes, does this signal the Packers think they need more quarterback depth? Like, does this to you say that, hey, they're saying we were comfortable with our starting 4, but we need a better rotation at that back end? To me, it doesn't quite scream that, but I just think they want more competition.
Yeah, to me, Drew, I think the writing was on the wall, or not the writing's on the wall. The whole purpose of this signing came with the person they released. They actually released Gregory Jr., I believe, if I remember correctly. So what they had decided, they got Gregory Jr. in here, right, and gave him a look. And who knows, he may be back in a couple of weeks. You know how this goes. It may be 3 or 4 days, and then he pops back up on the squad. But to the best of my knowledge, they cut Gregory Jr. and added Ballentine. I think everybody in here would agree Ballentine's a better corner than Gregory Jr. up to this point that we know of. So maybe they thought he might have a little bit higher ceiling than Ballentine. They go that route, get him into camp for a week or 2. Nah, he ain't the dude. Let's get Ballentine back in there. That's what it feels like to me. It's not so much depth or lack of depth as it is, hey, when we really compare the tape, we like Ballentine more than Junior. Does that make sense, Jacob?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. So there you go. All right, moving along, our good buddy Rob Westerman over on Twitter at GBP Daily put this out. I just love how it's worded. For all the Matt LaFleur haters, tell me if y'all think this is good or not. Since Matt LaFleur became Green Bay's head coach 6 years ago, no team has won more games than the Packers in the entire NFC. I repeat, in the National Football Conference, no other team has won more games since Matt LaFleur became the head coach in Green Bay than the Green Bay Packers. And we always talk about where he ranks overall all time. He's like always hovering around the top 10, top 15 in terms of winning percentage. He's a guy who's now, it was wait till he doesn't have Aaron. Wait till he doesn't have Aaron. He doesn't have Aaron now, and he's continuing to win. I think this is a hell of a feat here, man. I mean, really, this is something that thank God we've got Matt LaFleur as head coach of the Green Bay Packers. And I was hearing a conversation. I'm trying to think of who it was. If it might have been Wildy and Tausch, I can't remember. Someone was talking on the radio, and they were saying that, if it comes down to it, there's been a big conversation of whether Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur will get a contract extension because of comments that Ed Policy made that he doesn't believe in the lame duck coach and this and that. And he's typically going to wait until their contract's up before he extends them is what it sounds like. But the conversation steered towards, well, if you had to keep one or the other, which would it be? I think everybody unanimously pretty much says, yeah, I would keep Matt LaFleur over Brian Gutekunst. And that's not a knock against Brian Gutekunst. It just shows that if Brian Gutekunst got fired tomorrow, I don't think teams would be lining up to hire him. He would probably get a job, but he wouldn't be like this high, commodity, I don't think. Not as much as Matt LaFleur. Jacob, if Matt LaFleur was – if he hit the market tomorrow or this coming off season, there will be teams lined up around the block to sign this guy as their head coach. And I think that's the true filter you need to run these type of conversations through is how valuable are they to the rest of the league? And maybe we need to step back and go, okay, maybe we should appreciate what he's done. Because, again, no other team in the National Football Conference has won more games since he became head coach.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for me, it's a tough one, but that's just because I'm looking at it through the eyes of an absolute homer, and I think that I respect Goody way more than I'm sure the rest of the NFL does, just for what he's done and what I think he's had to go through and how he's handled this certain situations. I mean, this is a Packers podcast. I'm not trying to stray off of it, but I just look at what's going on, like in Dallas and in Washington and Cincinnati and Chicago and New York, both teams. And it's just, we at least don't have that. Even, our little bit of drama that we had, we seem to kind of nip it in the bud. And to those that we didn't quite, have a resolution, let's say with Elton, something was said, or there's an unspoken understanding that this isn't how we do things in Green Bay. Let's keep it quiet. We keep it behind closed doors. And then if there is an issue, the Packers aren't afraid to move away from people and drastically and kind of seemingly, do it for different reasons. But it is tough. Matt LaFleur is a very winning coach, and I think guys really do play for him. So I would probably have to agree that Matt LaFleur would be by far the hotter commodity.
Yeah.
Plus, he's a gorgeous man,
Man, we got off the rails quick there. Listen, I like Goody too. Don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying we should get rid of Goody. I'm simply saying if I had to choose between one or the other, I'm definitely leaning toward Matt LaFleur as opposed to Gutekunst. But I hope they both get extensions. Andy says, why in the world are we thinking of firing either? Exactly, Andy, right?
Right.
But the conversation got brought up because Ed Policy made a couple comments here earlier this offseason in talking about, and listen, we could go pull the exact quotes. You guys take the time to do that. But essentially it was, do you plan on extending Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst this year? And he basically said, no, not this year. There's no reason to. They're still under contract.
Right.
And then he said I think he said he didn't believe in the lame duck head coach.
Which is like the most Packers answer ever, to say, no, they're not in a contract here. Like, why would I,
Exactly.
That's his job, to be kind of stingy with the pocketbook,
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, Andy, I don't want you to take it the wrong way, but we're not trying to run them out of town. It's just I seen this come across and thought, man, can we just take a second and acknowledge this? Because that's a stat I didn't know. I knew he would be up there because his winning percentage is among some of the best all time in the history of the entire league. So when you see something like this, a new statistic about, winning more games since he became head coach in the NFC, it's pretty impressive. Cody Newman says people hate on both and they're both above average. That's to say the least. Yeah, I mean, to me, Matt LaFleur, if you had to score him, 1 to 10, right, I'd probably put him at about an 8.
I was going to say 8.5, just because of, we want to see him finish in the playoffs. I like what Dennis said here. He says, since we traded away A-Rod, the biggest scandal we've had in Green Bay is Jaden Reed's agent to call and see if he could have number one. Like, that's pretty much true. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And again, that kind of got debunked, right, Dennis? Like it's something that, when basically Adam Schefter backed off of that tweet real fast. And everybody's blowing this out of proportion. Like, Adam, Bub, your tweet said that his agent wanted to know if he's going to be the number one receiver or not. It's essentially what you said. So, yeah, I'm with you, Dennis. And again, that goes back to what we talked about. I don't think there would be anything wrong with getting Elton Jenkins some guaranteed money. And guys, understand, it doesn't mean you're giving him a raise. You're not doing that. What you're simply doing is you're committing to him next year. You're taking that money that's already allocated, that money that's already against the cap, and you're converting a little bit more to guaranteed to show him, hey, look, we are keeping you next year. You're not a lame duck center this year is essentially what it's saying, right? But Goody not doing that, if he does that, there's going to be 2 or 3 other players, Jacob, that are lined up going, hey, what about me? What about me? And that's the precedent you set within your organization. It's something that Bill Belichick did so well as the general manager of the New England Patriots for so long, is he would not let that get out of line. And when you let it get out of line, you end up with your Terry McLaurin's pissed off. You end up with your Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb last year, Dak Prescott the year before that, right? You start to cave a little bit, and now that momentum continues to bend in that direction. So, it's kind of how we see it there. So let's see what Jeff Jones says. Anytime somebody comes in with all caps, this should be interesting. I'm not going to scream like you are, Jeff, but we'll read it here. But Clayton, why are you satisfied with mediocrity? 3 question marks. Don't ever compare Gary to Micah again. Don't compare him to TJ, Max, or Miles either. Oh boy. Do we need to pull the statistics? And we need to pull the fact that Rashawn Gary had a higher pressure rate than both TJ Watt and Max Crosby last year. Do we do that? First of all, no one ever said Gary was as good as Myles Garrett. No one ever said, hey, if I chose between the two, I would take Gary over TJ Watt. We're simply saying people like you, Jeff, who are constantly over the top. It's embarrassing to the fan base because you're not actually looking at what is the scheme calling for? What does the tape show? You're going and reading the box score. You're going and looking at the sack numbers, and you're going. And let me ask you this: if these guys are so damn good, I ask this again. Where's that? Pull that back up one more time, Jake. I want to make sure I get these names right.
Sorry.
I'll find it. I got you right here. Just hold on to that one you got there. If they're so good, why did Dallas not make the playoffs last year? If Micah's so good, if TJ Watt is so good, and he's worth paying $40+ million to, why did he not make the Steelers not make the playoffs last year? If Max Crosby is just such a game wrecker, so darn good, how come the Raiders missed the playoffs last year? If Myles Garrett is this generational talent that we're talking about, how come they don't have a top 3 defense? How come they missed the playoffs? And the point isn't to say these guys are bad players. Nobody's saying that. Nobody is saying Rashawn Gary is better than any of those guys. We're simply saying from a schematic standpoint and what Jeff Hafley asked them to do last year, it's so obvious on the tape with the touch spine and the way the stats laid out, the way the tape looks is let's stop the run first and foremost. Forget the sack numbers. Let's stop the run and let's really contain the pass. Let's try to get pressure with 4 through simulated pressure. Simulated pressures doesn't mean you're blitzing. It means you're still bringing 4. You're showing fire zone blitzes, essentially what you're doing. How come the Packers defense went to a top 5 defense? Top 5 in scoring, 2nd in run defense, 8th in pass defense. But boy, oh boy, Gary is horrible. And he led the team in sacks. He leads the team in pressures. He leads the team. He led the entire National Football League in run stop percentage amongst edge defenders. See how people conveniently leave that out. So if you want sacks and you want stats, hey, go root for the Steelers. They got all kinds of sacks. Go root for the Browns. Hey, Myles Garrett, boy, he'll get you 16, 17, 18 sacks a year. But how come they're not winning? Anyway, Jake, you had another comment there. Go ahead and hit it, man.
It's just a great comment by Respect Oranges. He says somewhere Jeff Jones is squeezing that guinea pig tighter than a frog fart.
Oh man,
I don't know. I mean, Jeff's coming in hot. Clearly here he's got an opinion. It is like you said. You're looking at it through, I think, a weird lens, man. Just saying like we need to overpay this. We need to pay Micah Parsons $40 million because sometimes he's good at rushing the passer, where it's like you said, take a step back, look at it from 30,000 feet. Did that help the Dallas Cowboys as a team complete their goals? Did it even help them get into the playoffs? Did it even help, their defense be considered a highly feared defense at all? Did it help the team in any way? I don't think it did. Same with Micah Parsons, same with TJ Watt, same with, insert player here. It's not the way you build a team, man.
Right. And if he's so damn good, how come teams aren't lining up to give those 2 first-round picks for him, right? How come that's not happening? Why are the Dallas Cowboys so hesitant in paying him? You know what I mean? You're talking about Rashawn Gary last year. What was he? $11 million against the cap. This year it jumps to 23 or 24. Micah Parsons is going to be $40 million per. You're one injury away from having that big of a percentage of your salary cap allocation completely wiped off, right? Off the field, and you're still on the hook for that money. Andy Monday makes a great point. None of the other pass rushers would have current stats with the reduced snaps they would have in Green Bay. Andy, it's a beautiful point. And these are the things that people like Jeff, they don't look at. They right? That when you go and look at Max Crosby and you're talking about 98% play time, and then you look at Rashawn Gary where they got that heavy rotation, it's twofold. Like, if Rashawn Gary had the same amount of snaps, you understand that Rashawn Gary had, I think it was almost 200 less pass rush snaps than Max Crosby, and they had the same amount of sacks. They both finished with 7.5. People don't know that. because they're too lazy to go look up the numbers. They're too lazy to actually look at how much play time they got. And Andy he's spot on here. Imagine you go get Micah Parsons, right? And you trade 2 first-round picks for him. And then we're already over the cap next year because of his salary cap implications with the new contract he's going to demand, right? And then on top of that, you only play him 60% of the snaps or whatever the number is, right? Let's say you go that route. How is that money well spent? It's not. So, and again, everybody bitched and moaned about the run defense, right? Until we have a run defense, and now it's, well, where are the sacks? You got to get you can't have everything. You got to give something to gain another, right? It's just like when you're playing quarters coverage or like what Hafley did last year, Jacob, playing mostly cover 3, cover 6, and cover 2 defense, right? With a little Tampa 2 mixed in, which is cover 2 with the mid-third option. When you approach it that way, the numbers aren't going to shake out the same way as someone who's blitzing 60% of the time or whatever the number may be. It may be a little bit exaggerant there, but it's just
I hate, whatever. We'll move off this in a second, but he goes on to say, Micah Parsons finished the top 3 defensive play voting, 3 times in his first grade. He's listing
who
out.
gives a rat's ass
I
about an award?
I don't care. And here's the same thing. Micah Parsons, 4 years, 172 tackles, 84 assists, 52.5 sacks, 4 fumble recoveries. And then he lists Gary just below it. Compare the wins of both teams. Compare the winning of both teams. Did one of them make the playoffs? Did one of them? It doesn't make sense, bro. You are comparing apples to oranges and be like, they're the same. They're the same thing. Like it's plug and play as if that's how it works. It's not how it works. If we give them 2 first-round draft picks, you just screw our whole future right there. And you're giving them 40. I can't.
If you take the numbers he just shared, notice how he conveniently didn't break it down by pass rush.
Right.
It's just the overall numbers, right? Because when you compare it by pass rush and on a per snap basis, that's why, like, when we talk passing offense and how effective a team is, we're talking about yards per pass attempt. That's what's important to me. I could care less how many yards they throw for every game, because if they've got 20 extra attempts or 15 extra attempts, that number is going to be inflated, even though they were less effective in the passing game. Same thing goes with the running game. Some people like to look at rush defense and they go, well, they gave up more yards per game than this team, therefore they're not better. No, look at the yards per carry. Because if your team turns the ball over 3 times in that game and they get 3 extra possessions and that equals 8 extra attempts, well, 8 times 2, 8 times 3 is an extra 24 yards rushing or whatever it is. That's going to make your rushing offense look better than it actually is. So that's why I try to ignore comments like that, because I think people just want to argue. They just want to, kind of disagree. And that's why I typically go, hey man, we disagree. No big deal.
I just have a feeling that man's name isn't really Jeff Jones. I'll just say that.
No, we do have a lot of burners in here. I'll just say that too. Run into them on Twitter a lot. It's funny. The people that get, exposed, they all of a sudden change their name. But anyway, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time being divisive. It's just that's part of it there, though, man. People that, again, it's box score watchers is what it is. It's like in college football, especially around recruiting time, you get the recruiting classes coming through. They call them stargazers. They just go to a website and go, who's got the most stars? Oh, they're really good at recruiting. And then they don't even think about looking up in 6 months when everybody's kind of adjusted the rankings and go, oh, wow, that wasn't a great class. It just looked good at the time because I'm just looking at the simplest form of the numbers. And again, we will always on this show go back to the tape. The tape tells you the entire story. And there are some people that are too lazy to go watch the tape, and they're the ones that go, well, I know the tape guys say this, the tape guys say that. It's just wild. It's mind-boggling to me that you don't want to learn. You don't want to actually understand. Here's what actually happened on the field. And I'm telling you, you can't see it on the TV copy. You can't. You got to get the box cam. You got to get the all 22 to truly understand what a player's being asked to do. So anyway, didn't expect the Matt LaFleur conversation to go to me settling for mediocrity though. Which is, anyway, I'm gonna laugh, dude, this year if LVM blows up, because people like the Jeff Joneses, they will be, you'll never hear from them again. That's the way that typically works.
Yep.
Drew D with the super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. He says Daniel Jeremiah said he went to a number of teams' practices and the defense is ahead of the offense in every one of them. Amen, Drew. It's always like that, right? Every single year it's like that, Jacob, because offenses are trying to get their timing down. Offenses are trying out new things, right? Defense typically, well, you heard Hafley. He's already got his install is complete. The defense is, they've already, not only do they have the install complete, but now they've already moved on to adjustments for those installs, right?
Yep.
Matt LaFleur is probably still trying to figure out who's going to be my 1 and my 2. Who's going to line up in the 1 and the 2 in my trips left look? Who's going to be, taking these snaps at speed Z until Christian Watson gets back, so on and so on. How much 12 are we going to press into? So yeah, Drew, that's a great point. Daniel Jeremiah is one of my favorite, man. He's such an intelligent football mind. When people like that talk, Jacob, when people like Daniel Jeremiah, people like Kurt Warner, it's amazing how many fans want to argue with Kurt Warner on Twitter at what they're seeing at the quarterback position. I'm like, you do realize it's a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback that you're telling that you're trying to convince him you understand the game better than him. That's just wild to me. So, but thank you for the super chat, Drew. So it's a great point, man. You ready to get into this roster projection here, Jacob?
Sure am. It is funny though that Drew put that up. I was actually going to mention that today. There wasn't a lot that the Packers put out as far as interviews or anything that I could grab some substance from. So I sparked up that podcast because I know Emilio has been he's highly recommended that podcast, and I really do enjoy it. But it was I think it was Bucky that went on to say after that point, like, you have to think about it from a way of the defense has got basically one job. It's to stop the offense, right? And the offense, though, it's just so much more intricate. Like you just talked about, there are so many moving parts as to what the lineup is, the rotation, certain implements of certain schemes, the way that they're going to react to the defense. Get the ball, see ball, get ball. Offense is very nuanced and it has all these moving, like I said, parts. It does make sense that around maybe a quarter through the year, offenses start now pulling ahead of the defenses. But I will say, even all that being said, and I believe that to be true, I think there's something different about the Packers defense this year, just gauged on where they are now in other, parts of other years. I just do think that they are a few steps, past where we usually see Packers defense at this time of year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It does. Listen, you got a young team, right? And I'm tired of saying that. That's why I was hoping we get a little bit older this year where we can kind of press into a little veteran presence. And I feel like we did get a little bit older, but I think we're still the youngest team. I don't know. We'll see how, when the camp breaks, exactly how that comes into play. But when it comes to the defense, like you're saying, Jacob, I'm just going based off of the stuff that I've seen, what I've learned over, I've started watching. I always tell people I've watched football since I was, 8 years old is my first memory of actually getting into football. But I didn't start studying the game of football until 2009, 2010, right? So I've only got about a little over a decade of experience of actually learning, right? I guess 15 years now of trying to study the game and learn the game, and still got so much more to learn. And what I've always see a common thread is second year with a defensive system typically takes a slight step back. And that's why I'm prepping myself like, okay, if they take a slight step back and they're still borderline top 10, that's not the end of the world. I'm prepared for that. But I know what you're saying. It does feel like Jeff Hafley a little bit different animal, and they may actually take a step forward. And I hope that's the case. But I'm from Kentucky. You got to show me. The show me state. I know everybody says that about their own state, but I'm expecting good things out of them. Don't get me wrong. I think the more critical part, Jacob, is what we do on offense and protecting the football. Like we got to win the turnover battles, the turnover ratio battle, meaning we need to give the ball away far less than we take the ball away from the opponent. I think that's what's truly going to determine, us winning an extra 1, 2, maybe 3 games and getting to that 13 win mark like LaFleur's done. And what did he do it 3 years in a row? His first 3 years in Green Bay, I think. So, yeah. All right. Let's move it along here. Bill Huber's 2025 roster prediction. Okay, so I want to give a shout out to Bill Huber. This was an awesome article. I could have pulled the article up. I didn't want to do that to him. What I did was basically wrote down what he had projected, what his kind of prediction is on the roster. So if you guys would help me show some love to Bill Huber over on Twitter. And also you can just click on this link in our Patreon group that'll send you directly to his article. There's a lot more information in there. where you can kind of see why he picked these positions and which players would stay. So let's jump into it, man. First of all, quarterbacks, all right? 53-man roster. He's keeping 2. Jordan Love, Malik Willis. Practice squad, Jacob, Taylor Elgersma. So he actually thinks, at least at this point right now, and again, everybody's got the right to change their mind. It's early in camp. We're entering the second week here. But he thinks Taylor Elgersma will go to the practice squad and Sean Clifford will be cut loose. I don't think there's any concern with Sean Clifford being picked up by another team, maybe on a practice squad. You know what I mean? But I think there's still a chance that if for some reason we get a little ways into the season, Taylor Elgersma isn't advancing the way they want him to, or they don't like the way he's operating, helping operate scout team, that they could still go get Sean Clifford. But what do you think about that, man? That first thing right out of the gate kind of caught my attention. Would you be okay with keeping Taylor Elgersma over Sean Clifford?
Man, honestly, I don't know. That's one that I didn't think I'd have to think that hard about, but just the fact, I believe, wasn't Clifford a 5th-round draft pick? I personally think that maybe the only reason they would is an age thing, and I don't remember Elgersma's age right now. If you guys want to hit that in the chat, I think that if you want to look for what you know as far as consistency, is if you want to go in and just have, like you said, a guy that on the practice squad knows the offense, knows how to communicate that to the guys that are on that practice squad, therefore to the rest of the team, if they were to ever get that chance, I think they definitely keep Clifford. If you are completely looking at the fact that, hey, maybe Malik Willis is not here next year, we need to have ourselves a backup that has a little more upside, I think that, yeah, you probably try to take a stab with Elgersma and hope that he can develop into actually becoming a formidable backup for, let's say, probably the next 2 to 3, 4 years to come as well. If I had to pick one I would do right now, I'm going to be a little conservative. I think I'd probably still take Clifford.
Okay, got it. Let's go to the chat. 2-0 for this says the Clifford experiment is over for me. Joseph says Clifford is gone. All right. Daryl says Sean Clifford threw a football into the net.
There you go.
Joseph says Clifford's going to the XFL. So Turtles Elgersma is going to prove it Saturday. Man, I just got excited hearing you say that or reading your comment there, So Turtles. Get to watch these guys go out there and wing that thing around. It's going to be fun, man. I want to see a little Malik Willis, Jacob. Do you think they put Malik Willis out there for a decent amount of time to try to improve his trade stock, or do you think they just say, you know what, let's keep him out of harm's way and let's just let Taylor Elgersma and Sean Clifford run it?
Yeah, I know what I'd do is I would give him probably every first quarter and then let those other two just absolutely ball out, because I think we kind of know what Malik is, but I do think that going into this season, we want Malik to be ready. We saw what happened last year. He was very good off the bench, almost to the point of shockingly so, where we didn't see that coming. And I think this year, that, like you said, there's 2 reasons to do it. Keep him ready to go, keep him warmed up, keep that, I think that he is, like Coach said, I think he maybe does need some work as far as if he is going to be a plug and play. Like, if at any point Love goes out, God forbid, we want him to be able to come in and have adequate amount of practice time, playing time, so that he can kind of keep up with the speed. I really loved what I saw from him last year, and I do think that he takes a step this year. And whether that is just a trade bait scenario where it's like, yeah, we want him to, on one hand, come in and be able to be a productive quarterback if we need him. And like you said, on the other hand, show off some new toys that we have that maybe the rest of the league after about 4 or 5 weeks are like, all right, this is not going to happen. This isn't going to work. We need a considerable backup that we could maybe, get some real draft capital for. I'm all about it. I don't know. I think I still agree with the original statement. Oops, sorry.
You good, man. Dennis Shook says here in the chat, y'all are treating Clifford the way Jacob treats me. I'm done being anyone's last resort. So nobody puts Dennis Shook in the corner. You know what I'm saying? Drew D says Elgersma has not looked that great to me, but I haven't seen that much. Elgersma does qualify for the international spot, I believe. Drew, I'd love to get that completely fact checked, because I thought the same thing originally too. And then I want to say someone said he does not qualify for that. I could be wrong there. I don't know if it's something that maybe Canada doesn't qualify or what, but I kind of thought that's the first thing that crossed my mind too, was like, that might be a way that you could, kind of keep them both. But Holmes MD1 says a year too soon to cut Clifford, in my opinion. All right, got it, man. United Bates says Elgs is 23 years old. That's one thing he's got going for him. Yeah. Because Sean Clifford's 26? Am I thinking right? Like 26 or 27? He's getting older now. So, which is wild to think about. But all right, let's move it along.
Just
running back.
Braden says Canada doesn't count. I don't know if that's just for football, but I agree with that sentiment.
Jacob, come on now, man. We got great friends of the show in Canada. There's good people in Canada, man. Great people in Canada. What the hell's wrong with you, Jacob?
Syrup eaters.
Man, anybody I've ever known that's taken a trip to Canada, they're like, Clayton, you got to go. Dude. You would love it. It's beautiful up there. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I would like to get to Canada sooner or later. So moving on to running back. Actually, before we dive into running back, that'd be a good spot to stop it there. For those of you listening on the pod, that's going to do it for hour one. We're going to pick up on this conversation on hour two, where we will continue with the running backs, and we'll fly through this roster projection from Bill Huber. Just a little exercise to kind of get us ready for the second week of training camp. We'll see you on the other side. We appreciate you.
For those of you listening on the pod,
welcome into hour two, man. That was live in person. All right, running backs, 53-man roster. He's saying they're going to keep 4. Jacob, last year we kept 3, I believe.
Ooh.
Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks, and the practice squad goes to Amar Johnson. So he's saying Izzy is gone. Amar Johnson lands on the practice squad. I don't mind that. I could see that happening. What do you think about what he's got to say here, man? Bill Huber, Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks on the 53. Amar Johnson from the Jackrabbits landing on the practice squad.
Yeah, I'd probably have to disagree here. One, because in my opinion, Marshawn Lloyd has not shown us that he can stay healthy. And even if he has, I don't think we've seen enough of him to just pencil him in as that number 2 position. We've went and talked about that quite a bit. I think that Emmanuel Wilson has absolutely earned the number 2 position right now. That being said, I don't think that we'd have a problem sneaking Chris Brooks onto the practice squad. I could be wrong. He does have some decent tape that's on film, especially even late in the season. I just, at this point, with the wide receiver carousel that we have, the running back room was an easy one for me to say we're going in with 3. And for us to push 4 when I think 1 or 2 of them may not even be, targets for a lot of other teams, to me, this doesn't make sense. But I'm not Bill Huber. I think that that's fair. I do love Amar Johnson to the practice squad. I just feel like that Chris Brooks could get there as well. And that's, again, if Marshawn Lloyd stays healthy enough to even dictate the spot on the roster.
There you go. Now, you're obviously, I want to make sure it's not misunderstood. You're not saying Marshawn Lloyd should not make the 53. You're simply saying Emmanuel Wilson should be higher than him on the depth chart, right?
From what I've seen out of the last year of Emmanuel Wilson versus Marshawn Lloyd, I think that for sure it's Emmanuel Wilson's the number 2.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Now, listen, they may see it different. Him being a second-round pick, or was a third-round pick, right? I'm thinking right. Yeah, third rounder,
yes.
Right?
Yep.
They may see it different. They may look at it like, hey, we need to get him reps. We need to get him, some game time there in the regular season. But I'm with you, man. Emmanuel Wilson's done everything, right? He's gotten better at his pass pro. He's gotten better at catching the football out of the backfield, and Lord knows he can run that rock, man. He graded out as a top 10 running back last year, according to PFF. And again, PFF isn't everything, but when you see someone graded high on PFF and you go watch the tape and you see it on the tape too, that's where I kind of put everything together. All right, that all checks out. Sometimes I'll watch the tape and say, man, this guy's balling out. And then I'll go look at the NFL Pro data, some of the advanced analytics like your EPA metrics, and I'll look at PFF and go, I'm the odd man out here. I'm missing something, Joseph in the chat says Brooks doesn't survive being cut, in my honest opinion. I'll tell you, Joseph, he put some good tape out there last year, man. It's a good point. And I understand where you're coming from too, Jacob, to try to sneak him on the practice squad. If I had to make a decision right now whether to try to sneak him on the practice squad or not, I probably would try to do it too, just because I think of the receiver position that we need to probably put some extra bodies in, things like that. So Drew D, been a member for 9 months. Appreciate you, Drew. He said they must be from outside of the U.S. or Canada. There you go. So I guess kind of look at it like North America, right, Drew? Like they got to be outside of North America for it to qualify for the international. I was thinking I read that somewhere the other day, and I was like, darn it, I thought I was the smartest guy in the room here, because I was thinking, yep, we could just try to slide him into the international program. So anything else on running back, Jacob? Anything else you want to add there, man?
No. I mean, I understand people saying that's why we have to have 4 is because of Lloyd. But again, like, I don't know. I have not seen him do anything for us. And then the amount of, I don't want to say capital that we spent in the draft, because that to me, like you said, third rounder, understood, but for whatever reason, this guy just can't keep healthy on the field. And we have seen proven commodities from the other 2 guys. So to me, I think the Packers front office may make an exception, where usually it seems like they want to hang on to these draft picks until the very bitter end. I think this may be a different scenario, but I hope I'm pleasantly, surprised.
Yeah. All right, moving along. Let's go to wide receiver. Bill Huber says 53-man roster. We're carrying 6, Jacob. We're going with 6 receivers. They are. And again, I don't think he's got these in any particular order, to be honest with you. So don't take it as the order in which that's his depth chart. I think he's just kind of throwing the names in there for the active. 6 receivers make the 53-man roster. Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Dontavion Wicks, Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, and he's saying Mecole Hardman makes the roster. Obviously, this is with Christian Watson landing on the PUP, at least for the first 4 weeks of the season, probably a little longer there with that ACL. And he's saying we'll send 2 to the practice squad. Those 2 will be Malik Heath and Sam Brown. So really what the story is here, Jacob, the top 5, no surprise whatsoever. You got a couple of high draft picks, and you got guys that both Goody and Matt LaFleur absolutely love. The question is, do you agree with them keeping Mecole Hardman over Malik Heath? I definitely agree with Mecole Hardman over Sam Brown. I think I agree with them keeping Mecole Hardman over Malik Heath, but that's the tough one for me is like, which one can you clear onto the practice squad? I do agree with him that I think Malik Heath has a better shot of landing on the practice squad as opposed to Mecole Hardman that somebody might pick up because of special teams value. What do you think?
Yeah, that would be my justification there. This isn't one that I really would want to make as far as the decision. This is tough. I love Malik Heath. I really do. And it just would stink that because I think Mecole Hardman has came in here and just showed that he's too valuable in the areas that we really need, which, you know, if you want to call it a gadget guy, if you want a guy that needs to take the top off the defense, specifically in the punt return game, kick return game, just the veteran presence, a guy that's been to the big game, actually won the big game on his, like, you know, last minute, last second type plays. That to me is a type of value that I think doesn't make the practice squad. I know Tony Holman's saying that Heath won't make it to the practice squad. I think that very well could be as well, Tony. And I'm not saying that I'd, again, relish this. And I don't want to sit here and say, I hope there's an injury. I'm just saying if there happens to be one, that makes this decision, I think, a lot easier. And maybe we're able to do some sort of practice squad carousel between some healthy guys and guys that aren't in certain weeks. I really hate that decision, but I believe that Heath and Mecole Hardman are 2 very different types of wide receivers, if that makes sense. And I don't know how easy that decision is going to be because they're not apples to apples there.
Right. And, you know, when I think of Heath, and you guys know I'm the president of the Malik Heath fan club, especially with the EPA per reception, you know, analytic there. I think he's very, very, very underrated. But when you look at how Matt LaFleur builds his offense, I know some people would look at this and go, well, Malik Heath would be the better blocker than Mecole. I completely agree. But also, you got to look at Mecole as that moving Z as well. So you're getting special teams value, and you're getting someone who can line up in the slot. He can play the moving Z. He can give you speed at the Z position, which Matt LaFleur loves. If you guys are wondering, imagine you're going boundary X, so X on the short side of the field. You got all that large side of the field to have to cover. And if you put somebody flexed out there wide at the Z with speed, think of how that really neutralizes and bends the safety outside further than they want. That's what opens up your slot crosses, your climb routes, your digs underneath that Matt LaFleur loves going to. So I think there's a little more value in Hardman than there is Malik Heath. And I think there's a better chance that Heath makes the practice squad than Hardman, although I do agree with everybody in the chat who's saying they don't think Heath will make it to the practice squad. That's why I'm a little hesitant on being so like, oh, it's definitely Mecole. Because, Jacob, if a bunch of knuckleheads like us that do this show see that Malik Heath's taking huge steps in the right direction, you know the rest of the other teams in the league have seen it too. So,
yeah, I agree.
All right, and what's Burrell say here? I think Hardman over Heath based on veteran experience, and maybe he can throughout the season give advice to these wide receivers. 3 rings, I feel he should have a little edge. And you know the other thing too, Rel, is when they signed him, if you'll remember, all the receivers, the young receivers, I know Matthew Golden and Savion Williams said that Mecole Hardman reached out to him right off the bat. And it's like, you haven't spent a single snap with the Packers, and you're taking it upon yourself to reach out to the first round, third round pick at receiver. It really says a lot too. So I'm with you there, Rel. I think you make a great point, man.
Real quick, somebody in the chat let us know, because I want to say somebody said, or we keep 7 wide receivers. Is there any other year lately that you guys can point us that we started with the original 53 with 7? I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm very curious to see if it did. So if
I don't remember, but it wouldn't surprise me either, you know, because there's been some weeks that I stopped trying to figure it out, Jake. Because there was many times where I'm like, oh, yeah, he should be active. And then come game day, we're going after 4 corners or something. Like, I didn't expect that. So, yeah, that's a great point. I would love to know that information, too. I don't know how we could find it, to be honest with you, without having to comb.
I'm sure Bates will find it.
Oh, yeah, Bates is the man. Bates is our Jamie. All right, tight ends. Check this out. 53-man roster. 3 on the 53. Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, and John Fitzpatrick. He's got Ben Sims going to the practice squad. I think there's just as much a chance of Ben Sims getting poached as John Fitzpatrick, but it's obvious, Jacob. John Fitzpatrick seems like he has passed Ben Sims up on the depth chart. I don't know if it's his blocking ability or what it may be, but they really, really like John Fitzpatrick. He's a big body dude, too, if I'm thinking right. He's like 6'7" or something crazy.
Yeah, and I think they both had pretty good RAS as well. What I think is more likely than Fitzpatrick or Sims, I think if they did decide to ever do a 7 wide receiver, 53, I think you're only carrying 2. You're going in with Tucker, and whichever the 2 doesn't make the practice squad, even, could you see a scenario where, all right, they think they can sneak Fitzpatrick and Sims on the practice squad, and then somehow both of them get sniped, and they're like, oh, that's all right, we got Messiah Simpson or Swinson, who we just fills that role of being the more inline blocking tight end, because we've got 2 very athletic guys. I mean, with Musgrave, a guy you can split out almost as a wide receiver. Tucker is almost in that same vein as well. I'd say he's definitely a more well-rounded tight end. Do you see that ever as a situation, or am I just?
I kind of talked about it the other day that if you like Ben Sims just as much as John Fitzpatrick, I would be okay with the initial 53 carrying 2 tight ends to try to squeeze some other guys on the right. And here's the way that works: is if you've got a couple of guys that you want to try to get on the roster that you think other teams are going to be highly going after, what you can do is once you get them on the 53, even if it's for a day or 2, and you let these guys clear waivers, go to the practice squad, now once these other teams are going, well, crap, they kept it on the 53, let's move on to another player, and then they start to invest in another player, then you kick that guy over to the practice squad.
Yeah.
It's more likely you'll hold on to him once the season kind of gets going as opposed to that initial cut. So there you go, dead fish, John Fitzpatrick. 6'7", 262 pounds. That's a big old boy, Jacob. Big old boy. His arm length has got to be just absolutely outrageous too. Ben Sims, 6'5", 250. Listen, that ain't a small human being either, right? Ben Sims, I feel like he's done everything they've asked him to do with his opportunities. But I do remember Fitzpatrick last year, a little late in the season, lining up in that wing and just smacking people in the mouth in the goal line situation. So I think we had one specific Chalk Talk one time. It was a Josh Jacobs touchdown run. Was a play on Chalk Talk one week, and we literally on loop put Fitzpatrick smacking somebody right in the mouth at the goal line. So
yeah,
obviously they like them both. So United Bates says, I'm seeing 2023 with Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Dontavion Wicks, Samori Toure, Malik Heath, and Grant DeBose. There you go, Jacob. 2023 looks like was the last time or at least the one that Bates was able to find.
Man, how soon we forget? I forgot about Samori Toure, bro. And yeah. I was on his bandwagon for a hot minute,
Right. Yeah, there you go. Bates says, showing it's their 2023 initial 53-man roster. Wow. So we broke camp with 7 receivers. Maybe
I think that's true. I think I remember that. Yeah. And then I think Grant ended up leaving halfway through the season and went over to like Miami or something and got a big injury, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Okay.
So if you did say, you know what, we're going to roll the dice, put John Fitzpatrick on the practice squad because we think this is a better way of asking this question. If we just narrowed it down to wide receiver and tight end, who do you think has a better chance of making it to the practice squad? John Fitzpatrick or Malik Heath? I think it's John Fitzpatrick, don't you?
I would agree, sir.
So that might be why you break camp with 7, even if it's for a day or 2, So anything else on tight end, Jacob? Anything at all?
No, sir.
All right, let's move it along. Offensive line. I was hoping Emilio would be in the house tonight. He'd be excited about this. All right, 53-man roster. Bill Huber is saying we're going to keep 9 on the 53. It's Rasheed Walker, Aaron Banks, Elton Jenkins, Sean Ryan, Zach Tom, Jordan Morgan, Anthony Belton, Jacob Monk, and Travis Glover. Practice squad is going to be 4. John Williams, Donovan Jennings, Tyler Cooper, and Brant Banks is his prediction. So obviously the big talking point here, Jacob, Travis Glover. Do you see any of those other 4 that Bill Huber specifically mentions as the most valuable that didn't make the 53, the 4 offensive linemen that made it to the practice squad? John Williams, Donovan Jennings, Tyler Cooper, or Brant Banks. Is there any of those four you would rather keep over Travis Glover? I'm not saying this because it's Emilio's guy, but I think I would keep Travis Glover over those four too, man.
Yeah, as much as I want to, rub some dirt in Emilio's face, the only one that honestly popped off the page to me would be Donovan Jennings, just because it seemed like they had been giving him snaps all around that line. We know he can play tackle. I think he could play guard. It sounds like they were giving him like third string center snaps. So if there would be a guy that pops off the page for that, I definitely don't think it's John Williams. He's got too much back problems. Tyler Cooper, I believe that was the guard out of Minnesota. Brant Banks just hasn't had enough time. I think Donovan Jennings, I believe, wasn't he a USF guy? And yeah, that would be the only one, honestly.
Got it. And for me, I remember Tyler Cooper kind of catching my attention a little bit. Like I want to say,
graded out well.
Yeah, I want to say he of those four players there, I think Tyler Cooper was the one I'd probably be most interested in. Clint, the armchair quarterback, says John Williams, the invisible man, right? Chris Casuan, John Williams long term. It's a great point, Chris. He's the youngest. You got a 4-year deal there with him being a draft pick. However, if you just kick him to the practice squad and then bring him back on a futures next year, it resets to a 3-year deal, so you're good to go, right? To the best of my knowledge. If I'm misunderstanding that, you guys correct me in the chat. But so I look at it the same way you do in that regard, Chris, but also if you can get him to the practice squad, does Travis Glover get poached if you try to send him to the practice squad? I think of those four, he's probably the
get poached by Emilio and dragged into his basement.
Tied up in his basement.
I got a race car bed for you, brother.
Yeah. Look, Holmes MD1 Jennings was cheeks on family night. And, that's the other thing too, Holmes. They're trying him at center a little bit. And he's failing miserably with the snap. And that ain't an easy thing to do if you don't have a whole lot of experience there, right? But that kind of, to me, Holmes, it feels like the writing's on the wall for Jennings. Like, hey, let's see if we can get some extra value out of him at the center position. And if he can't do that, maybe we just move on. And, we're sitting there talking about the players we want to keep, the players we don't want to have to cut, and so on and so forth. And we're not even taking into consideration every year, right? Other teams will cut players that Goody loved, and he'll go pick them up, and we'll cut one of these guys loose. So that'll definitely happen. So, yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. Anything on the offensive line here, Jacob? Anything else you want to add, man? We good. I think Jacob had to step away. We'll just keep it moving here. Defensive ends, 53-man roster. He's got them carrying 6. Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Kingsley Enagbare, Brenton Cox, Barron Sorrell, and Colin Oliver. Now, we all know there's a realistic chance Colin Oliver could end up on the PUP if that hammy isn't fully healthy by the end of camp. He may be so far behind on practice and everything that let's just start him on the PUP. If that's the case, I could see them potentially carrying Aaron Mosby, or I could see them stashing Colin Oliver on the PUP, throwing Aaron Mosby over to the practice squad, and only carrying 5 defensive ends / edge defenders kind of going into the season. So I could see that playing out that way. Everybody's now taking guess on what you're actually doing over at Jacob. So Jacob had to pick Ma up. There you go. So what do you think about this, man? And what do you think about Colin Oliver? Do you think he'll be healthy so he doesn't have to go on PUP? Or do you think it could be something almost like a 4-week red shirt there just to free up a roster spot? But Bill Huber's got him keeping 6 here. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, the old saying is you can wish in one hand and crap in the other and see which one fills up first. I would wish on everything that I have that Mr. Colin Oliver could come in there. Nice. I just don't think that he's advanced enough. Just, the unique situation that he was. Some people thought he may be a tweener. Him coming in with that hamstring and just really getting no live time, missing some integral, some crucial parts of camp. I just think that this is starting to look more and more like a redshirt year. And I actually really am impressed with Aaron Mosby. It seems like every time that he gets an opportunity, he excels or at least outperforms what I would expect him to do. And let's not forget about guys like even Desmond Alexander, who I think has put some pretty decent tape out there. And I agree with at least that first 5. Obviously, I don't think there's anybody on there other than maybe like a Kingsley that could surprise us. But I think another year more after that injury that really seemed to kind of make him tentative, that he's going to have a good shot to make this. So I agree with that, but I'd probably honestly swap Mosby and Oliver if I'm being real.
Yeah. Clint, the armchair quarterback, says, I don't see Maka on there. Joseph says, where's Maka? Micah Parsons. So that's the other thing, too. You bring Micah Parsons in. 2 first-round picks, $40 million per year, and who you paying?
Just
It's just
I don't.
It's wild. And listen, it could happen, Jacob.
We could look like idiots tomorrow, but
here's the other thing too. Precedent, right? Precedent. How many times since Goody has been here? Goody took over in 2018. Am I right there? 2018, I think, is when he took over.
That sounds correct.
2019, something like that, as GM. Since he got here, how many times has Brian Gutekunst traded for a player, any position, traded for a player, and then gave him a contract? I don't think it's happened one time, right? So they traded for Randall Cobb, and then he was gone in 1 year. But he's not done one of these big trades.
Is Jacobs playing on an existing contract, or how did that work?
Who's that?
Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs. Oh, yeah.
Well, he wasn't traded. That was a free agent sign. That's right.
Agent.
Yeah. I can't believe the Giants did that.
I know. It's wild, man. You talking Xavier McKinney from the
Giants. That's what I'm saying. Giants, Raiders. To me, it's crazy.
Yeah. So, again, it's just about precedent. It could happen, but, man, what are we talking about? 2% chance? Maybe even less.
You're right. I don't remember. Yeah, I can't think of anything.
All right. So again, defensive end. That's how Bill Huber sees it.
Says Preston Smith. What did he trade for Preston and bring him in with him and Z?
Signed him.
That was another free agent. Yeah.
Yeah. He actually went and signed. If there's one thing there's precedent for from Brian Gutekunst is when he makes a splash in free agency, he likes to do it in twos.
Yeah.
Like he went and got Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, same position, right? I say same position. They're both edge defenders lined up opposite of each other. He went out that year and got those two guys at the same time. Also added Adrian Amos, I believe, that same exact year. And then, of course, he goes back into free agency 2 years ago now, year and a half, however you want to say it. Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs, got 2 more, right? And then last year goes and gets Aaron Banks, Nate Hobbs. So,
and also, didn't he do Rasul Douglas and who's the linebacker that we loved for a hot minute?
Devondre Campbell. Those guys, if I remember correctly, were pulled in off the scrap heap once the season started, I believe.
I think so.
Now, one of them may have came in camp, but it wasn't like actual free agent frenzy. Let's go out and put a high bid in on time.
Still, he's got a darn good track record of bringing in free agents when he decides to pull that trigger. Like, that's insane.
That's why when there were many fans that were really, really down on Nate Hobbs.
Hobbs, my fault. I'll admit that. Both of them.
I wanted, you go look at the PFF grade and you go, what are we seeing here? What are we doing? But then you step back and go, Goody got a good track record. Goody's got a darn good track record of free agents. So I'm going to sit back and let him do his thing, And maybe these are the guys he missed on. And if he does miss on one or both of these guys, it's not the end of the world. He's literally batting 1,000 with these big free agents so far. I mean, even Adrian Amos was a very, very, very good safety his first couple of years in Green Bay. And then it kind of tapered off on down the stretch. And we know how the contracts are set up. A 4-year deal is really a 3-year deal. And sometimes a 4-year deal is just a 2-year deal. I did have something marked here I want to hit real quick. I thought it was interesting. Nathan earlier, sorry for the delay, Nathan. He says, Clayton, I noticed in Jordan Love's contract, he's under contract for this year and next year with the potential out after 2026. If he doesn't perform this year or next year, do you see Green Bay take a quarterback? If he doesn't perform, he's specifying, guys, so don't jump on him. He's not saying, no, get rid of Love. Listen, that's how Goody does that's how Goody and Russ Ball want the contracts worked, is they want themselves to have an out later. As in terms of would he take a quarterback? If this was the first year of Jordan Love's contract, Goody would take a quarterback if the board fell right. I mean, he values it that much. That's just the old school Green Bay way, right? We've seen him do it with Brett. With Brett. Hell, when they got Brett, and this goes all the way back to Ron Wolf, right? It's just how things have happened. And this is the same front office tree, too. When they went and traded a first-round pick for Brett Favre, they had Don Majkowski. Don Majkowski was a stud. Yeah, people forget Don Majkowski was a damn good quarterback, right? So if Ron Wolf wasn't willing to spend a first-round pick on Brett Favre, what would the franchise – will we want a Super Bowl in 96? You know what I'm saying? Now you go to Brett Favre. They got Brett Favre now. We don't need a quarterback. What do? You go and draft Aaron Rodgers. If they hadn't drafted Aaron Rodgers when they had Brett Favre, do we win a Super Bowl in 2010, 2011? I don't know. And then, of course, now we find ourselves in a position where we got another top 10 quarterback, in my opinion. Could be potentially top 5, maybe top 3 if he plays like he did the back half of 2023. Why is that possible? Because you had a Hall of Fame quarterback and you pulled the trigger and went and got another quarterback in the first round. So, so to answer your question, Nathan, it's set up that if for some reason Love were to fall flat on his face, they could get out of it after 2026. Absolutely. In terms of drafting a quarterback, Love can be the best quarterback in the league, and I think they would still maybe take a chance on a quarterback if it's the best player available, right? So, all right, moving along, defensive tackle. 53-man roster. Bill Huber says they're going to keep 5. Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, Warren Brinson, Nazir Stackhouse, and Keith Randolph on the practice squad. I like that defensive tackle room there, Jake. Now, I would love, don't get me wrong, I would love to have had one of our top draft choices like we talked about, right? Going into draft season, I felt like it was such a 3-tech heavy defensive draft that I would have been totally on board with them taking, one of the bigger names there in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, oh boy, looking back, Jacob, I'm so excited that Matthew Golden's on this team, man. And now I didn't really have a problem with it on draft night. You guys know I said Matthew Golden when it came to the pick. If we went around the table, who do we think we're going to take? I said, I think it's Matthew Golden. And it was Matthew Golden. I'm just so glad that was the pick now, man, because he's really flashed in camp. With that being said, though, if Kenny Clark is healthy, right, and they continue to build off what they did last year, being the second best run defense in terms of yards per carry and being a legit, top 7, top 8 pass defense, and I think they finished 5th in scoring defense, maybe even tied for like 3rd or 4th in scoring defense. I kind of like this defensive tackle room because chances are you're going to hit on one of these guys, Warren Brinson or Nazir Stackhouse. And I'm still blown away that we got Stackhouse has been the darling of camp, and we didn't have to use a draft pick on him, Jake.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing that does shock me here, which Coach Glenn said, no Wooden. He just casually Kobe Wooden off, and he doesn't even have him trying to make the practice squad because I don't think he would. He's got too much experience. He's got too much draft capital. So that to me is a little surprising. I haven't heard as much about Warren Brinson as I have about Stackhouse, which, like you just highlighted, is very peculiar given the fact that a guy like Nazir was able to slip into the UDFA. And there is just something crazy about seeing the big boys wearing 93. You know what I mean? Even going back to Slayton, obviously, to the OG, Mr. Gilbert, the grave digger Brown. I feel like that number should be forever, not retired, but only dedicated to the big old boys, the big hog mollies, the guys that absolutely are just run stuffers. So the only pushback I would give to this list is that I think out of the 2 rookies that Nazir has earned a spot. I don't know if we could sneak Warren Brinson on the practice squad. I don't know how that would work, but it does kind of upset me to not see Wooden on this list. I feel like it's a little too early to let him go.
I can respect
but I don't know. And then maybe us trying to keep 6 here and make another adjustment somewhere else. The Keith Randolph thing. Yeah, whatever. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a nice guy.
No,
Nazir Stackhouse, run stopper, guys. He's going to be your one in your nose, like one tech in the nose. Warren Brinson, they're saying, is showing flashes in pass rush. So I'm kind of looking at Warren Brinson. They may be expecting him to be what they thought Kobe Wooden could be.
Right.
And Nazir Stackhouse is going to kind of fill that TJ Slayton role, a bigger body guy. Now, Warren's bigger than Nazir, right? So in terms of height, I know, and I want to say he's right around the same in terms of weight. So Deadfish says no Wooden, he might be too light. I could see that, Deadfish. I could see that because they like to play Carl at the 1 tech. Many people didn't pick up on that last year. They like to put Carl Brooks in the 1 tech, and it just felt like Carl could handle it. And when I seen Kobe Wooden in the 1 tech, I don't know, man, it kind of felt like the problems we had with Devontae Wyatt before, like he was playing a little bit out of control. Maybe he wasn't comfortable in there with those big boys at the guard position. So, yeah. All right. Anything else on defensive tackle there, Jake?
No, I think that what you said earlier was pretty on point. The fact that, if you would have had me maybe do a draft redo or, whatever you want to call it, it would be very tempting to grab one of those big D tackles that were so promising in this draft. And we, how many times did we mock and we went cornerback or a D tackle or whatever the case may be, because we kind of all said, oh, we could go wide receiver. We all know it's never going to happen. And I fell victim to that. That's why I honestly didn't do a lot of research on Golden, because in my head, I thought he'd be gone by 15 at the latest. I really did. And the fact that he fell kind of into our lap, pretty cool. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers' agent says, Clayton, off-topic question, but would you make this Packers season somewhat of a success? What would make this Packers season somewhat of a successful season? NFC Championship? For me, to be a successful season, I hate to keep going back to it. It drives me crazy. That's why I was hoping we get a little bit older. But you got the youngest team in the league. I feel like if you get a playoff win, that's another step in the right direction. I don't think necessarily winning an NFC championship. If you're saying NFC championship win, it doesn't have to be quite to that. Making it to the NFC championship, Jacob, I think would be a huge step. Like, okay, we're one step closer in the Jordan Love era to kind of getting over the hump. But I do kind of feel like I'm, selling us short is the right way of putting it. Like maybe my expectations should be higher. I'm expecting somewhere between, 11 to 13 wins, 10 to 13 wins, somewhere in that range. And anytime you're talking about potentially having 13 wins, you should be in the NFC Championship. You should be right there in the conversation. So, I don't know, that's a tough question, Aaron Rodgers' agent. For me, I think if you get a playoff win, it's in the right direction. And I understand there's going to be some people say, hey, man, listen, you got a playoff win 2 years ago. What are we talking about? Yeah. I can understand that argument too. So maybe you do have to get two playoff wins. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think it's a good one, Aaron Rodgers' agent. The thing is what do you want to do? Do you look at it as in just from this year, or do you look at it from, Matt LaFleur with Rodgers? Like you said, we had the 3 consecutive 13-win seasons, didn't do crap in the playoffs. You look at it as Jordan Love when we actually go and beat the Cowboys, do all this kind of crazy stuff. But now you have to take a step back and say, all right, with this team this year, if it is the youngest team, even if it's not, I guarantee you we're going to be top 5 of youngest teams absolutely in the league. Does that mean, and I love somebody's answer here, it was Clint, armchair quarterback. He says, for me, it's sweeping the NFC North. So getting back to being a dominant person in your own division, especially when, for the longest time, the NFC North was not a very powerhouse division. It just wasn't because of the Bears and the Lions. And all of a sudden, when those two organizations decide to dust up and kind of, at least present that they're formidable, now we have to worry about beating those guys alone just to get ourselves into the window of that playoff berth. And then you could also start and talk about, I believe Matt LaFleur is 3-4 in the playoffs. And is that perfect? No, obviously not even close to what I would hope for. But the fact that we are perennial playoff contenders, at least to get into the wild card, if not win the division and then make another step. I think for this team, for this year, I would be happy with winning over 10 games, at least split in the NFC North, at least, if not winning 4 games. And to me, it'd be at least 1 playoff victory, if not more. That's where I would see. But honestly, I have a lot higher hopes right now. I think the defense is too good and the offense has too many weapons for us not to be at least a deep playoff team. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. AFAM in the chat says Jordan should be in his prime. No more learning curve. AFAM, I completely agree, man.
I actually agree with that.
Yeah, completely agree. This is the year, right? He's got to go out there and prove he's a top 10 quarterback. That's what he's got to do. And I'm not talking about statistically. I'm just talking about when the game's on the line and you got to make the right decision and protect the football and take the shots when you need to. And more importantly, in my opinion, take the check down when it's there.
Yes.
Take it on time, on schedule. Completely agree, AFM.
Or take the scramble when you can.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Robert Bertana says, Favre third-year Super Bowl, Rodgers third-year Super Bowl, Love is in his third year, make it happen. I think it's a fair point. It's a fair point. Now, I will say this. When Brett won the Super Bowl, they had the best defense in the league, right?
Yep.
When Aaron won the Super Bowl, they had the best defense in the league. With that being said, if this Jeff Hafley defense, Jacob, if they can somehow propel themselves to the best defense in the league, if they finish this year, and let's say they're top 3 in run defense, they're top 3 in pass defense, and they're top 3 to 5 in scoring, yes, Jordan Love, there's no excuse to not go on a run and have yourself in a position to win the freaking Super Bowl. So, yeah. All right, linebackers. Let's get to it, man. Holmes actually has a special request here. I'm going to try to give it to him, man. Tim ain't here, man. This whole show falls apart here, but let's see what he says here. He says, "Thank God never farted."
You think God never farted?
Completely agree. All right, linebackers, 53-man roster. 5 is what we're keeping. All right, on the 53, Edgerrin Cooper, Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Tyron Hopper, Isaiah Simmons, Jamin Johnson going to the practice squad. I agree with it. Jacob, what do you think, man? You got any problems with carrying those 5? I'm excited to see what Isaiah Simmons does for sure, man.
That'd be my squad for sure. Yeah. Very, very excited with what could be that Simmons signing. I mean, that could be one of those when we look up in the next year or two, and you're like, oh wow, that was one of the, we talk about Amos, talk about Campbell, talk about X, all these sides. What if it's a guy like that? Another one that the Giants just let walk away after spending an 8th round draft pick on a guy that was billed to be an absolute, slash, like an actual slash on defense. What if we just, Halfley comes, takes him under his wing, says, hey, you're just going to let you play this position. Let's see you eat. And then boom, that could be a big catalyst. Definitely.
Brent in Indiana with the super chat. Thank you so much, Brent. Appreciate you, buddy. He says, everyone will bail Jordan out saying it's the youngest team. Oh, that's why I hate the fact that we're potentially the youngest team again, because I don't want to be, me personally, I don't want to be able to look at that and go, oh, no, look, so the youngest team. But damn, boys, it's like, if we're the youngest team, how many times in the history of the game has the youngest team won the Super Bowl? And that's just how my mind fires. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm not saying it's the right way to fan. I'm just simply saying that's how I run stuff through that filter of, okay, what would it take to break precedent from the past of getting over the hump if this, and this are the guidelines we're going off of? You know what I mean? So, yeah. Chris the Casual Win says, and thank you for the super chat, Brent. I think it's a great point, man. It's a great point. These young guys played a lot of football, y'all. It's a good point, Chris.
I think that we'd have the youngest. I wish there was a metric to see. Even though we are quote unquote the youngest team, we'd be the youngest team with the most experience, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, I would bet dollars to donuts that we would be.
Yeah, definitely. All right, moving along. Cornerbacks, 53-man roster. 5. Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, Nate Hobbs, Bo Melton, and Kalen King. And he's got Kamal Haddon and Micah Robinson landing on the practice squad. So Micah Robinson kind of takes on that Kalen King role from last year, right? 7th-round pick. Get him into camp. If he absolutely balls out, let him make the 53. If not, stash him on the practice squad like they did Kalen King. This is wild, man. Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, Nate Hobbs, Bo Melton, and Kalen King. And Bo Melton and Kalen King going to be battling for that number 4 or that number 4 corner spot, right? Well, keep in mind, we don't have Javon Bullard listed here, right? So we need to mention that. Bull's going to play a lot of slot, it seems like. At least first week of camp, he's the number 1 slot corner on the team, it seems like. So you're carrying 5, but you're really carrying 6 when you talk about Bullard's versatility. And we're going to talk about safety in a minute, and Bullard's on that list, obviously, not being here with the cornerback room, Jacob. Man, that versatility with Bullard, and I know he's not great at safety. At least he was in his rookie year. He's better in the slot than safety. But, man, there's some value there with that versatility to be able to just throw him back here and go, okay, now you go play safety now because somebody got banged up.
Yeah, I think that is a massive part of this. I really wouldn't push back too much on that list. The only thing I would say is I think Kalen King's position could easily be Haddon's or Micah Robinson's, depending on how they play in the preseason. I think that's going to be a massive thing. And, as much as I hate being a negative guy about, I really do think Bo Melton's going to make this team, but there is one thing that does not look like the other on that list, and it definitely is Bo Melton. And if he starts, I think that might be the most intriguing thing for me to watch in preseason, especially on the defense, is throw Bo out there every game. I want to see how he does. I want to absolutely see if he's going to get worked. Let's see it happen now. Let's not build up this facade of that he's going to be a starting or even a backup cornerback in the NFL. If he can do it, let's go.
There's been players in the past. We kind of talked about a little bit from Jason Wilde's article last night of cornerbacks who were undrafted and ended up being huge role players, right? Huge role players for the Packers in championship years. Like we talk about Sam Shields, we talk about Tramon Williams. What if Bo Melton's that next dude? How cool of a story would that be? Because this team loves him. The coaches love him. Us as the fans, I know we love him. Like, my God. You're talking about a guy that, just getting to chat with him a little bit in passing in Tennessee in the away game and just how he tweeting back at people. He's just always positive. He just seems like he's one of these guys that when he is done playing the game of football, which is going to be a long time from now, it'd be cool to have, kind of like John Kuhn is on the sidelines, have Bo Melton back because, I don't know, man. He's an awesome guy.
Cheese curds make my stomach hurt all the time, but I do eat them though.
I hope he makes the roster, and I hope he balls out. Now, you guys know I was very, come on, guys, is he really a corner? You guys remember me approaching this when they made this decision. Come on.
Ryan, Ryan was, I see the writing on the wall. This is kind of basically the death march.
Right, yeah. Walking the Green Mile, Green Mile. Yeah. Cheesehead Murph says, we are projected to be the youngest going into the 2025 season.
And then check this out. Our own Jamie, a.k.a. United Bates, says projected youngest teams for 2025. The Packers, 25.15 years old. Eagles, 25.4. Bucks, 25.59. I will say one thing. Those three teams have one thing in common. Pretty good.
That's that makes me feel a lot better. Now the Super Bowl champions, they did cut a few players loose. I do remember them turning over the roster a little bit, right? Like, was it Darius Slay? I think he's playing somewhere else now. He's a lot older. So that probably bring it down a little bit. I would love to see Bates, if you can do this for us. And Murph, thank you so much for pointing this out too. But Bates, see if you can find out where the Eagles ranked last year in terms of the youngest team. I would love to know how close they were to being the youngest team. So here we go. Youngest team to win a Super Bowl was 26-year average age, the 85 Bears. It's been a long time, ain't it, boys? Long time. Let us know, Bates, please, if you'll do that, man. I'll buy you a soda pop later, man. I want to know in Pittsburgh. Thank you, buddy. Slater's in Pittsburgh. I want to know where they were. Okay, there we go. Boom. God, he's so quick. United Bates, they were third. So, Jacob, give me a little bit of hope here. I'm trying to be optimistic. It was the third youngest team last year that won the Super Bowl.
No, I think that's amazing. Thank you, Bates, for being so quick on the button there. And I hate to just, steer a very serious comment into, what I like about the Green Bay Packers? I get older, they stay the same age. Yes, they do.
All right. Well, that line in that movie did not age well at all, did it? we all hear that and make a joke about it. Now we look up and go, damn, man, there's people, they were living by that, wasn't they? Some pretty prominent people, too. Lord have mercy. All right, safeties. 53-man roster, 5. Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, Zane Anderson, and Omar Brown. Practice squad, Kitano Ladapo surprised me. Jonathan Baldwin. Now, see, this is where I would differ from Bill, and I would consider Bullard as the 6th DB and probably would cut loose. Who was the other guy? I would probably try to get, if it were me, I would try to get Kalen King back on the practice squad.
Yeah.
And I would rather carry Kitano Ladapo. I could see Kitano Ladapo getting poached real quick if you try to get him to the practice squad. How do you feel about that, Jake? What do you think about Catan Ola Home Depot? Are we really going to be able to get him to the practice squad? I mean, that just seems absolutely insane to me that we could think for a second that he would make it to the practice squad. Am I wrong there?
I don't think you're wrong. And honestly, I think a little bit of recency bias because he's got Omar Brown on there. No, I don't think most people thought that Omar Brown was going to make this team other than the fact that he just got 3 picks at family night. Drafted free agent from Nebraska. Me and Tim loved him. If me and Tim were running an organization, I guarantee we'd poach him off the squad. But I just think, like you said, Kitan Oladapo, Mr. Home Depot, Mr. Paint his hair in whatever color that we want him to. I mean, he didn't have, I believe.
He's got swag, dude. He's got so much swag.
And last year, I think that he almost had a sort of a redshirt season, even though he did get some playing time. And I think he came out a little stronger towards the end and showed a little more kind of the chutzpah that we thought he had. I would probably flip him and Omar Brown, thinking that we could at least stash him for one more year. Yeah,
definitely. For me personally, I would put, and someone asked here, let me go to Dennis Shook. He says, Dennis Shook with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, I'm going 12-7 versus the Bears. You boys, please go. That's the game I wanted to go to, Dennis. My wife is trying to get me to go to the Vikings game, though. Instead, we got a nephew who's a Vikings fan, and we thought about taking him up in the box. He's a good kid. He's probably watching right now. He's a great kid, man. But yeah, I would rather go to the Bears game, to be honest with you. But I think she's pressing towards the Vikings game. We'll see how that shakes out. She typically wins these battles, so I've got to go ahead and warn you. But thank you for the super chat, man. Appreciate you. Brambo says 7 safeties on the roster, though. I don't see Javon Bullard as a safety at all, man. I don't. That me personally, that's a corner. He's a slot corner is what he is. Now he can play safety, but he's a slot corner. I personally would try to get Omar Brown to the practice squad over Kitano Ladapo. Jacob, if you're building a team, all right, and you've got one more spot left on your roster for safety, and there's only 2 guys available, you're building a team, and it's between Omar Brown or Kitano Ladapo, who are you signing of those 2 players? I know who I'm signing.
Yeah, I'd probably take Keaton, but Coach Lynn makes a good thing. Amor getting a snatch up. He's put too much on tape already. He's put too much on tape for the Packers family night. And I, not to, sell that short. You guys know that I think that's one of the best things in all of sports. I just think that we are looking at it maybe with a homer lens in that aspect that I don't know. That's the first I've seen Omar Brown really shining. That could just be me, but yeah, Keaton, was he a 6th rounder? I want to say he was.
Yeah, I think he was a
5th or a 6th rounder. So
I think,
yeah, check us out, UB. Man, hey, by the way, just guys, we got 420 people in this live stream right now. On a random Monday night, we're just talking some smack. So if you guys could hit the like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, it really does help a lot. So Cody Newman, 5th round draft pick for Kitano Ladapo.
Got it.
Yeah, because that was after. Remember how to? Because we went Bull, Evan Williams, and Keaton, and we were all happy that night. Everybody was
right
happy.
Here. I got the board, the draft board from that year right here in front of me, right? And literally, this is how the safeties fell for my board: Tyler Nubin 1, Javon Bullard 2, Kitano Ladapo 3. So we get the 2nd and 3rd best safety in the draft, in my opinion, in that draft. And then we turned around and got Evan Williams, who was lower on my board, but he ended up being better than all of them.
Yep.
Now, he was highlighted in green as, hey, this guy is prime for the pick and for the Packers. They love this type of guy in terms of whatever it was, Senior Bowl. We had a number of different, qualifications, but yeah, pretty wild. They flipped that safety room around real quick. And I always make the joke that Joe Barry was like, damn, boys, why didn't y'all go get me these guys when I was here? Like I had to march out Darnell Savage and Jonathan Owens to play as my starting safeties. So Coach Lynn, Zane is 29 years old. We can get him back on the practice squad.
That could be a good point, man.
It's a great point, Coach. And I love Zane. I thought Zane showed some flash. But, Jacob, you're talking about Omar Brown just showing flash and family night. As much as I like Zane Anderson, he showed it for like 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
He gets the concussion, goes out. So it's
people didn't believe he existed legitimately for most of his career.
Yeah. For sure. All right. Specialist, 53-man roster. Brandon McManus, Daniel Whelan, and Matt Orsic, right? Practice squad, Mark. Say it, Jacob.
Where am I looking? McNamee.
All right. I'm just giving you the opportunity to get it right because I'm going to screw every one of these names up. So pretty cool. They just basically said, all right, this is going to be our new project at kicker. And you know what? What if they do get this? And he's the international player, right? What if they do get him to kind of pick up on the game real well? And in 2 years, 3 years down the road, when Brandon McManus decides to retire and maybe he's lost a little oomph in that leg power, they could just pop him right into the lineup and pick up where he left off. I think it's cool that they've got McNamee learning from Brandon McManus. I think that's awesome. So
yeah, respect to say it's McNamee.
That's what
sounds more Irish,
Yeah.
But
everybody says it. I've heard like 4 different pronunciations, so I just say Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it. And like I said, if you guys, an interesting interview, one that I did not expect was the Brandon McManus interview from like maybe last week early, where I believe he talked about how he shares a personal trainer with Travis Kelce and how they work together worked in the off season together to kind of get a little more, meat on the bones kind of thing. Yeah, easy. And, but he actually went on to talk about how he has not had the consistent snapper and holder like ever in his career, and that he's just excited to go back into this, that even in Denver and at Jacksonville, there was just always a little bit of mix up, whether it be the holder, the snapper, and then the coach. Like he said that this is so great going into another year and just being able to have some continuity. And I think that it's working. I mean, what is he like? Literally almost 98% right now, which I remember me and Clay, I think one of the only times that we kind of got not like in an argument, but like actually like a pretty heated debate. It was early in the season last year. And we were going through, I think, Narveson and Greg Joseph and a few of the guys. And I think Clayton's point was like, look, you're not going to find a guy on the street that isn't signed that's going to be hitting 98, 97%. And all Brandon McManus did was just quiet every single quote unquote person that said it couldn't be done. He just said, all right, you guys are giving me another shot in the league. I'll show you what I can do. And he came in and just basically been an absolute freaking heat-seeking human meat missile the whole time.
Yeah, but in my own defense there, when we made that comment, he was still facing a suspension from the league.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like, get him off the list. There's nothing we can do with that. The second he became available, and it wasn't like, hey, McManus got cleared, let's go sign him. I don't remember it happening that way for me. I just remember we signed him. I'm like, oh crap, this is happening. This is awesome. Like it was, because again, kicking in Denver, obviously with Denver, it's easier to kick there in terms of, distance, but you do have to kind of get used to how the ball sells up there in the thinner air as well. But yeah. Let's go to this one Patreon question, then we'll get out of here, Jacob. I know we're way over. J. Cole says, not sure if anyone asked this, but what do you all think about Sterling Sharp admitting that no one from the Packers called to check on him after his surgery? He seemed to still have some hard feelings about that. I didn't hear that comment, Jay, so I'm speaking completely from ignorance here. But I will say this. I should probably just keep my mouth shut because obviously I don't know Sterling as a player. I wasn't a Packer fan back then when he played, right? For me with Sterling, I'm just going off of people that played with him. And the way Robert Brooks talked about Sterling led me to believe Sterling had zero interest in helping the young players behind him. He just wanted to get his contract. That's not, listen, more power to him, Jacob. You know what I mean? Guys got to get – thank God he got a contract, because if he hadn't, when he broke his neck, he would have been screwed, and he's trying to take care of his family. And back then, NFL players' salary and everything was much different. You know what I mean? Much, much different. So with that being said, it doesn't surprise me based off of the vibe I got from Robert Brooks when Wilde and Tausch interviewed him. And just that little subtle comment about Sterling was kind of like, sound like he probably wasn't the best teammate, So maybe he has hard feelings toward them. They have hard feelings towards him. You got anything to add to that, Jake? I don't want to downplay in any way. It's awesome that Sterling Sharp got in the Hall of Fame and he's going in as, I guess you could say as a Packer. I know that stuff really don't matter when it comes to the Hall, but anything.
Yeah, I not that J. Cole is out of line for this question or anything. It's just I hate crapping on former players or men of greatness that have had every single man. Lord, if you ever saw all the cards open for my book, you guys would say, holy crap. Like, I think we got to stop crapping on men of greatness for small mistakes they've made in their career or big mistakes they've made in their career. That's not the epitome of what their franchise and their career stat, all that. Now, that being all said, I 100% believe that dude was a me guy. He was in the age of when Jerry Rice was in the, you know what I'm saying? Like, you had to be a me guy. That was when Deion, this was the start. Yeah, that was the start of the prime time, the NFL actually hitting just absolute stardom. Guys had to make their money. And like you said, you have a small stint, even if you can be the best of the best. You've got maybe 5 to 10 years in this NFL game. You got to make the most of it. I think he saw that. And am I going to hold him accountable for trying to get his? No. But I can understand why guys like maybe Robert Brooks would have said, that's the type of guy you want to be. Then don't expect people to be by your bedside all the time,
Right, exactly. Steve Simons, hopefully I'm saying that right. Simons in the chat says, Sharp was a hard guy, grew up with nothing. I was stepped on by him as a kid. He was not nice then, but the next day he was awesome to me. So yeah, he and Shannon, man, they grew up really, really rough. They grew up poor in a real bad neighborhood, people getting shot. That's why I try not to, unless I've personally met someone, I try not to judge them too hard. Because it's like, you shouldn't judge people regardless, but it's amazing how people will formulate opinion. Not that anybody in the chat did this, not that I did it or Jacob did.
And just to be sure, I'm telling you, Jay, I'm not at all throwing shade on you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that me personally having to answer that question is because I don't want to be considered a guy that's going to crap all over and somebody else said it the best, don't meet your heroes. Trust me. I've done it multiple times and I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah, right. I've been pretty fortunate, man. The people I've got to meet, but again, I'm not running it through the filter. Not that anybody else is. Of you better be an upstanding person because you're famous. I treat them like they're anybody else. You know what I mean? I do not run to people. Let me get an autograph. Let me get a picture. I'm just not that dude. There's nothing wrong with being that dude. I'm just kind of like more of a, I don't want to bother them. That's why my wife refers to me as the stick in the mud, because it's just, I'm going to stay over here and sip my cold brew chacha and just do my thing, and everybody else can kind of flock to the players and hang out and everything.
I'll tell you what, two people that I got the pleasure of meeting when I lived in Nashville that I've never forgotten. Eddie George was somebody that used to come into a restaurant that I was working at, and he would request me as a server because I was like that Clayton. I never once ever, the most I ever told him, I said, just so you know, my little brother was a diehard Titans fan when you guys switched from the Oilers, and my dad almost disowned him. He asked for an Eddie George jersey, and he had to buy one. He laughed so hard. And then I got to meet Derrick Henry, one of his first rookie years. And that guy, just as nice and humble and sweet as you could ask for. It was so huge. He's a massive man, but I just thought they were really great.
Yeah. All right. We're way over. I'm in trouble. Jacob, thank you for your time, boy. This was a fun conversation. I think we got a lot done tonight. And again, we just wanted to take a run through I plan on taking a look at the roster like we did. And then I seen Bill Huber's article pop up. I'm like, let's run it through that filter and then give our opinion on it. I think Bill was pretty darn good with his assumption or his prediction, I guess you could say.
I think I'd agree with like 90 to 95% of that list. Yeah. There's just a couple that, yeah.
So it's going to be fun, guys. We got a full week here. We got practice. I think it's open to the public tomorrow. Again, take this with a grain of salt. Check the latest information. This was the original schedule that was put out, so I'm not sure how accurate it is at the moment. They should be 3 straight open practices to the public, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then they're off on Friday. And then come Saturday night, 7 p.m. Central Time, we got a game at Lambeau Field against the Jets. I'm so fired up. So we will be doing a pregame show and a postgame show definitely for that Jets game. We may do a live stream and just chat in here while the game's going on, but we'll see how it goes. Michael A. Smith in the chat, he knows what's up. He says, go apologize to your better half. I will. I'm going to take the trash out. Yeah. Holmes MD1, Clayton, the couch is for you tonight, buddy. Be well, Pirates. Hey, as long as I got Lincoln laying there underneath my feet, my German Shepherd, love my wife. But
Chuck. Thanks, Mandy. She's the one that really makes this whole podcast go right here.
Oh, you kidding me, dude? Yeah. I'm going to go downstairs and be like, hey, I'm sorry I went over. She's just going to hit me with that. She's just going to hand me a cover. Here, enjoy the couch. So, all right. Everybody have a great night. Thank you all so much. Hit that like button on the way out. Hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, thank you so much for making us a part of your evening. Make sure you click that bell icon so you get notified every time we go live. We'll see y'all tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Central for PTA Live. Bates says, thanks, Clay and Jacob and Mandy. Best as always, go Pack Go. Appreciate y'all. Everybody have a wonderful evening. God bless. And, yeah, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Go Pack Go.
Here we go.
We're out.
Bye, guys.